Hi guys. Hey, can you Vegas hear us? We can't see. Oh, no, we can't see you yet. How are we going to see them? I can't see anybody.
You gotta get that picture. Was that us?
Oh, there he is. I can't see. I can't see anybody that's even on Zoom or anything. I'm going blind tonight. So hello, welcome everybody. All right, are we ready, everybody? We got Kent. We got the house full here in Kent tonight. It's rainy and icky here in Washington State. I just flew in this morning from Vegas, and excited all of these guys are here with me. Welcome to all of you guys at home. I can see you all now. That's good. Very good. See if some new people are on. So a couple announcements first. Number one, we have a special group tomorrow for all of you moms. So usually the moms, we call it the mob, Moms of Battlefield, but it's really all ladies. So grandmas, aunts, women. We meet every Wednesday, and usually it's on Zoom. We just have our coffee together. It's like a 1-hour date every Wednesday morning. We get to know each other more. We talk about the topic for the night before and all that. Well, tomorrow it's actually in person. So the last time we did this was back in July. Had a lot of fun. So tomorrow we're going to meet in person at Kristen's house on Lake Tapps. So all of you local ladies, we hope you all can join us. It's not too late to come. You can reach out to me after the meeting for the address, and I'll get it to you. But 11 a.m. tomorrow, and we're just going to be there until we're done. We're going to have a lot of fun. Becky's making her taco soup. And we're just going to have a lot of lady time. So I won't go into too many details. We'll keep it a big secret. We're just having a lot of fun. So all you ladies need to join us. So please do. We have like 22 people coming already for sure. So we've got room for more. So
I have to make more soup.
That's all for me. What do you got, Becky?
Well, as your Battlefield fundraising person, somebody asked me last week, I'm in this business networking group as Battlefield's representative, and they came up and said, hey, is Battlefield a 501c3? And can they, because our company does matching funds. And I'm like, heck yeah, we are. And yes, I can get you all the information. So if that sounds like you or someone you know where you work for a company that does matching funds, contact me, Becky at Battlefield Addiction, and talk to your human resource person. I can get all the information that you need.
Yes, reach out. It adds up quick. So thank you for checking in with your resource department. Thank you. And I have the comedian right next to me. So Mr. Kyle Munkers. He brings us Kyle's Corny Comedy Corner.
Yeah.
I get to be front row seat in person this week.
Right. Thank you for the MILF announcements.
Boss.
All right, so the other day, we actually ran out of toilet paper, so I had to use some newspaper. The times are rough. Yeah. You guys know what that sexuality is called, in which somebody finds both men and women attractive, but neither men or women find them attractive? By yourself. One of my buddies at work told me he has a side hustle in which he flips houses. I mean, that's crazy. You must be strong. Laugh, Chris. You know that saying, if you've been to one food court, you've been to them all. I went on a date this one time. Girl said, we should get some drinks and, see where it goes. And I was like, well, it goes in your mouth. The drink, that is, just so you know. Just clarifying. Sometimes I don't like to tell people. Lately, I haven't really been comfortable telling people I have dentures, so instead I've changed the words around, and instead I tell them I got substitutes. All right, last one. Today I had this cashier when I went to the store. I mean, sexy, super funny, super intelligent. I just love the self-checkout.
Good
job.
Those are good.
I guess we've muted Angie. Are we ready to go?
Yes.
I guess the hat. My hair's a mess. Recently I was talking to a group of kids that are I call them kids, but people that are adults that are in the program. And there was a question they asked, and they said, when do we move on? And it struck me, and I didn't really have the right answer last night, and it took me a while to have a rebuttal to that. And so tonight is for you. If that's a question for anyone, when do you move on? Maybe a better question is when do you move out? That might be a question, but the question was posed to me of when do we move on, and it kind of lended to the idea that somehow that we would complete this program and move on to either another one or something like that. And almost as a point where I would say, deem you a graduate of this program, and then you wouldn't have to do it anymore. And that was kind of the way it was presented to me. Like, when don't we have to do this anymore? And so it dawned on me that, wow, maybe they aren't doing it at all. Because there's a difference between being in a program and doing a program. There's a difference between going to church and practicing church. There's a difference between going to yoga and hanging out and being a yoga practitioner. So this program doesn't get done. I've been doing it for 12 years. I can tell you that for me, when my life was posed to me as a pile of rubble at 37 years old, and that's what it was, at 37 years old, what ended up happening is that there was just this pile of rubble called my life, but it wasn't even a pile anymore. It just had flattened out, and it was just debris. There was nothing left. It was just nothing. There was nothing, and it was worse than nothing. It was more of a sunken hole. And that was what my life was. And for me, when I came out of the detox, when I came out of the fog of 17 years of opiates and cocaine use and alcoholism, and when I came out of that fog, I needed answers. And the answers that I needed was, what caused this? What caused my life to be this pile of rubble, worse than rubble? What caused it to burn down? And how could I be a man sitting here at 37, living at my parents' house with no capabilities of funding myself, with no way to get out of my parents' house, with no career, and starting again, much like a 16-year-old, I was starting over as a 37-year-old. And I was much like a 16-year-old in that I didn't have some certain things like a driver's license or you guys, please, with the vaping, I'm going to get killed. Don't vape in here, guys. Please, please. There's no vaping. You understand? Please. So worse than that, I didn't understand from what had caused all of this, how I'd gotten to this point, how I could have ended up like a 16-year-old person, living in my parents' house, broke, unemployed, and $80K in debt. And so what I started doing was I became on a mission to kind of confront the enemy. I needed to find out what the enemy was. I needed to really find out what the enemy was. I no longer had the luxury of kind of looking out there and jokingly blaming the world. I had to actually look and see what the enemy was. And I'm telling you, as if you start that process of actually calling recovery, seeking the enemy, Now, if you're in recovery, but you're not seeking the enemy, then I doubt that you're in recovery. You're just doing something like not trying trying not to use drugs. But this was different because for me, I needed to get to the bottom of this. I needed to understand I didn't believe I was the type of person that could end up like this. I had bigger dreams and ideas for myself. Where did they go? And this is who I'd ended up. And I almost lived in a fog, like, the waiting room, please, Brandon. I almost ended up in a fog, like, how did I get here? How did I end up in this position? And so the first thing that happened was I went to AA, and they told me there that I had a obsession of the mind and allergy of the body. And at some level, I bought into that. So I had this obsession of the mind. So now I must fix these thoughts. I must figure out how to relieve myself of these using thoughts and these drinking thoughts. And how do I take this obsession that I have? And what do I do with it? And so the enemy was the obsession. And I tried to find the obsession, and I tried to cure myself the obsession. And for the most part, I did get rid of that obsession. But see, I don't know if the obsession was cured for the fact that I had too much pain from drugs and alcohol, or that really there was an obsession that was cured. But I know at one point that it started not making sense that I had an obsession of the mind, because I didn't want to do drugs anymore. And the reason I didn't want to do drugs anymore was it wasn't worth it anymore. It was too much pain. So there I went about the business, and I still was seeking. I still didn't know what the problem was, because that wasn't it. And then I thought it was, first, before all that, I thought it was drugs and alcohol. But clearly, when you remove the drugs and alcohol, no, Joshua, please. When you remove the drugs and alcohol, clearly, there's still a problem here. And I still wasn't functioning like a normal person, and I still was having trouble. And so now it wasn't that. And it wasn't that I had an obsession of the mind and an allergy of the body. And it wasn't that I needed to go to these meetings every day. I didn't understand why I needed to go there. So then I kept looking a little closer, and I wanted to see what this was. And then there was something that I wanted to be. What I wanted to be was I wanted to be happy. So I decided that I would want to be happy. So now, in order to be happy, I need to look and try to find what the enemy is of happiness. So then I went about the business of getting money, and I got the job, and I got the stuff, and I went about the business of getting money and stuff and things. And I just built, and I built, and I built. And in a year and a half, I built up to, Joshua, please, if you can, it's hard. I built up to the place where I had all those things that I thought were going to do it. And then that was it. So the enemy was a lack of money. The enemy was a lack of an identity. The enemy was a lack of stuff. And so I got all that stuff, and here we go. I still got a problem. And then I started looking a little closer, and I still don't know what the enemy is, what did this. And so now I'm looking, and then there was this level of disturbance, frustration, annoyance, then anger, and then all the way up to hatred that I started experiencing. So it kind of went little to big. It kind of went, there was a new enemy that I saw, and it was disturbance, annoyance, anger, frustration, hatred, maybe in a different order, but those things were right there. So now they were my new enemy. I need to get rid of these things. So I need to stop being annoyed. I need to stop being frustrated. I need to stop being angry. I need to stop hating. And so then, okay, I'll do that then. But there's a deeper problem, because once you say you want to do that, you just can't do that. I always see those Facebook posts on Facebook that some person is telling me that you should be kind. Some person is telling me you should be patient. Some person is telling me you should be gentle. I know I should be. See, that to me was a lot like a coach telling a football team that we need to score more points. Well, that's very obvious that we need to score more points to win the game. So it's very obvious that people should be kind and patient and not annoyed and not have hatred. You shouldn't hate. I know I shouldn't hate, but I do. I know I shouldn't be angry all the time, but I am. And so now anger or hatred and anger and frustration and disturbance and annoyance and frustration, these all things I'm dealing with. And I now know these things must be the enemy of me. And I got to get rid of these things so that I can be happy and free. And so there I go, trying to handle that enemy. But underneath that, there was something. And then finally there was breadcrumbs along the way. There was people telling me that all those things come from insecurities, but I didn't believe them. There's the people that told me anger was fear, but I didn't believe them either. There was the people that told me that it was me. I didn't believe them either. You see? So then what happened was I went somewhere, I read something, and it told me that pain is resistance to what is. So now I started noticing that in my body, there was resistance and pain. And now a different clue availed itself. And so now I'm looking at, okay, well, pain is the problem. Obviously, and I'm a drug addict, and they've always told me that I can't handle pain. So clearly, I'm not good at handling pain, and clearly pain is the problem. Except that didn't do it, because now I'm looking at pain, and I don't like pain. Yeah, it's the problem, but I hate it. I hate pain, so every time there's pain, I try to go do something to get rid of the pain. So how can pain be the problem? Pain be the enemy? Maybe it is, but I'm going to go do something to get rid of pain. So now I still felt, well, I don't know if I found the enemy here yet, so I'm going to look even further. But see, then I realized something. It's not the pain. That's not the enemy. The enemy is my resistance to the pain. The enemy is my avoiding the pain. The enemy is what I want to do when I feel that pain. So now it's not the pain, it's the resistance. So now I got to a point where I can start seeing that I need to actually stop resisting the pain. But how do you do that? You see? Now, many of you don't know what I'm talking about because you still are maybe at the initial point of your investigation. Maybe you haven't realized it. And maybe you're at points in your recovery where, I always used to say that thing, I get it. I know that I'm the problem. But that didn't mean shit to me. I could say it to everyone. I could say it over and over. I get it. I'm the problem. But I don't know what you mean. And I don't know what the problem is. And I'm still doing that thing. So now all of a sudden, I start this practice of dealing with the resistance. I start actually feeling the resistance in my body, which once I felt the resistance in my body and I felt that pain and accepted that pain, now all of a sudden I realize that there is a pathway out, that it is true, that now I've located the enemy, that the true enemy is resistance. You see? But I'm not convinced because, see, I still get annoyed and frustrated and angry and hatred still comes and all these things are still presenting themselves. So now have I located the enemy or not? Because it is very clear to me that guy's an asshole. It's very clear to me that person is annoying. And it's very clear to me that I should hate that. And it's very clear to me that I shouldn't like that. And it's very clear to me why I'm disturbed and it's not my fault. So now you oscillate. And you start handling resistance. But how much should I handle? How much should I take in before that needs to change? So now, what is all that? So the next thing that occurs is you're sitting here dealing with the resistance, and all of a sudden, it switches. The resistance takes over when you can't deal with it, and now you find the new. And now what happens is you now begin to get taken over by the enemy. And so now I've found another problem. That every time I experience this resistance and it takes me, that now my mind wants to find the new enemy. And in that moment, I can no longer see myself. I can no longer see the enemy because I've become the enemy. And all of a sudden, so when you're in your head and your head is telling you what the enemy is, that's the enemy. The thing that's telling you what the enemy out there is the enemy. Now that's hard. But you got to get it fixed. You got to get it understood. The thing that's blaming the external world, the thing that's blaming out there, that's got you, and you're under the control of the enemy, and everyone can see it but you. So now, all of a sudden, I can no longer help and deal with the enemy because the enemy has got me. So now I knew it. Now I knew when the enemy had me, because I know the enemy has me when I'm blaming you. The enemy has me when you're annoying. The enemy has me when you frustrate me. The enemy has me when I hate you. The enemy has me when I'm disturbed. You see? Now I can no longer spot it because I am it. And it has me. And now it's tough. But then I got to the next level because I went somewhere else and the breadcrumbs were along the way. And I kept following the breadcrumbs. And the next thing someone said to me was, look at this. The waiting room, Brandon. The next thing that somebody said to me was, here you go, Art. Now look, when you are annoyed, when you are disturbed, when you are frustrated, when you are angry, when you are filled with hatred, you're always the same thing. And you're two things. One, Art, when you're experiencing those things, annoyance, disturbance, frustration, anger, hatred, the first thing that you always are, Art, and they told me and I didn't see it, they said the first thing that you always are is a victim. So every time you're experiencing those things, now look, it's suspicious. If you're annoyed, you're a victim. If you're disturbed, you're a victim. If you're angry, you're a victim. If you're hating, you're a victim. That was very suspicious. And they said the other thing that you always are is righteous. And they said, you're not frustrated, you're a righteous victim. You're not disturbed, you're a righteous victim. You're not annoyed, you're a righteous victim. So all those things, all of them were just levels of resistance that caused me to become a righteous victim. Now, if I would just be able to look here at my righteousness, well, I can't, because righteousness has taken me over, and now you're the problem, and I'm in resistance, and I need to deal with you and get you to change to end my resistance. So there it was. So the suspicion was, well, all of those things are just different kind of levels of smell. But they're just, like disturbance smells a little bit. And then frustration smells a little more. And then anger smells a lot. And then hatred really stinks. And they're all just levels, but they're not levels of smells. They're actually just levels of resistance. So as I looked at it, my body, and then I finally was able to understand that all of my pain in my body, all of the resistance that I felt in my body caused me to be a righteous victim. And when I became a righteous victim, I blamed the world. And because I did that, I had a mind that was hardwired to do drugs. So when I blamed the world for the way I felt inside, my mind was hardwired to say, fuck it, go get high. I have a new hardwired mind nowadays. It's hardwired for pizza. Same experience. I get angry and frustrated and I get all those things. And then my mind says, go get some pizza. You deserve it. So as you go, if you come with me tonight, it's very difficult for me to articulate down to the idea that there is resistance in your bodies and people miss it. And because they miss it, we have a mind, and our mind takes over to protect us from the resistance in our body. And because people don't focus on their body and they live in their mind blames the world. And that's the way it protects us. And the way the mind blames the world is through righteousness. And it tells us that the world is victimizing us. It tells us that people, places, and things are victimizing us. Our environment is victimizing us. Our job is victimizing us. Everything, somebody's words are victimizing us. If last week or the week before you were online and something I say bothered you, that's because there was resistance in your body. That's because the words that I said hit something in your body. And please don't blame me for that, because you won't get any better. Because you're not talking about the right enemy. You're talking about me being the enemy rather than the resistance being the enemy. So I see all these people talk about moving on or talking about when do I graduate? I haven't graduated yet. I'm still dealing with the enemy, but I know what it is. I know it's not you. And I know it's not you. And I know it's not my boss. And I know it's not the world. And I know it's not the Democrats. And I know it's not the Republicans. And I know it's not my parents. And I know it's not anything. It's the resistance in my body and what happens in the way I behave after that resistance. The way I shut down, the way I pout, the way I blame, the way I yell, the way I kick and scream. And baby Art doesn't like the pain, so he fires back and tells you that you're the problem. And he tries to protect himself. And that resistance has to be dealt with. They say trauma causes addiction. No, resistance causes that. The trauma causes resistance. People who have been traumatized are more resistant. They're easily insecure. They're in more pain from that. But that doesn't equate necessarily to that. A person who's been traumatized could also see the right enemy. It's not the trauma. That's not the enemy. That never goes away. It's actually the resistance you have when people talk about it, the resistance you have when you think about it. Pain, righteousness is pain leaving the body. Every single human being that's annoyed is a righteous prick. And they're a righteous prick to protect themselves. So our enemy now might even not be the resistance. See? Now it even moved even further. The enemy is the righteousness. The enemy is the way, the enemy is the protection. What are you protecting yourself from? Righteousness protects us. Being right protects us from what? From what? What would happen to you if you're wrong? Why are we protecting ourselves with righteousness? For what? There hasn't been a real threat on your life ever. Maybe not ever. But definitely not in your living room with your family. So now we've even moved even further. It's not an allergy of the body and an obsession of the mind. It's not my obsessive thoughts. It's not that I don't have a right identity. It's not that I don't have stuff. It's not that I get angry and frustrated and irritated and annoyed and I go roll my eyes and I be superior and I say they're annoying. It's not that. It's the righteousness that I have that keeps with me, the fuel that lasts long after the situation. That I go home from work and I tell my husband how bad it was and how everyone's failing and how you're not the problem. And then I get off the road and I say everyone sucks at driving. And I say, oh, here comes Uncle Bob. He's so damn annoying. It's the way I feel when I'm doing that. The nasty. I find people would rather be righteous than happy. They'd rather be right than in love. And that's just simply, we found the enemy, the protection. So the enemy is the protection. It's the way we behave when we're protecting ourselves. The way we behave when our body goes into resistance. And let's even boil it down in any simpler terms. The enemy is your heart rate. It goes boom, 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 and you act good and you feel nice. And then it goes boom, 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 and you act righteous and it don't feel good. And it's that simple. So now we've gotten down to simple. Now, if I want to stay sober, I've got to be able to control my own heart rate. I got to be able to control the muscle spasms when I want to fight someone. I have to just sit here and breathe and let my heart slow down before I react and say things. Now my own heart is now my enemy. And I've come to the place where I realize that I must keep it open. And to keep it open, it can't beat fast or it closes. And what will I behave like if my heart speeds up? Almost 9 times out of 10, it'll be righteous. It'll be superior. I'm better than you. You stop behaving that way. Anger is just righteousness. Try to be any of these things without feeling righteousness. You can't. And I found that very suspicious. I found it very suspicious that I couldn't be angry without being righteous, that I couldn't hate without being righteous. So suspicious that I began the process of trying to keep it in my body. When do we move on from this? When is it over? When do we stop coming to these groups? When you start controlling your own heart rate. Another thing people say to me was, this is for the parents. Really? I don't find this for the parents, for the drug addict, for anyone. I find this for humans. I'm not talking to you about an addiction experience. I'm talking to you about a human experience. You're the one that experiences your heart rate. What do you act like after it goes berserk? You don't even know what you're saying. And then you get back when your heart rate calms down and you go, I should have said this and I should have said that. And why didn't I say it this? I would have really got him. You ever feel your heart rate when you're texting somebody real fast because they pissed you off? Tell me that ain't righteousness. And you think you're going to end that experience by getting that other person to change. And it never works. So you're focusing on the wrong enemy. You're under the guidance of the enemy, trying to label the enemy. I know I've found the enemy. I know I've found the right one. I know where the work lies. I know that the job of keeping my heart open when it wants to close is tough. That I know all the ways in which I protect myself from the humans around me that aren't trying to kill me. I protect myself from the words they say. I protect myself from they might think of me a certain way, so I try to change how they think of me. And now let's get down to this, because I called everybody a liar and I want to stand by my word. And this is what makes us liars. We're lying about the resistance in our body. We have the resistance. We are annoyed and we tell people, hey, how are you? We are disturbed by people, but we don't tell them. We say, how's your day? We do hate people, but we say we love people. There is hatred, but we say there's love. If we're annoyed by people, we don't tell them, hey, you're a very annoying piece of shit. We look at them and smile, and we try to hide our resistance, and then we go talk about them behind their back. That's what we do. And if you don't like what I say tonight, don't tell me, because it will frustrate you and it might annoy you, but you can't tell me because you might be lying. You don't want to be that truthful. You don't want to tell me what you're thinking. You don't want to tell me when I cause resistance inside your body because it's something you haven't heard, or maybe you're insecure, or maybe it shakes the very foundation in which you live your life. But you feel a resistance in your body. That's called an insecurity. That's called an unsure body. And all this damage and everything going on is caused by that. That unsure body, that insecurity, followed by an elevated heart rate. and people conducting their life after that elevated heart rate hits. And if somebody elevates my heart rate today and pisses me off, I hate them tomorrow because it's their fault. They shouldn't have done that. That's called a resentment. But see, you didn't take responsibility for your elevated heart rate. Barkley. That was the real issue. The real issue was you didn't like how you felt. You didn't like the pain and you resisted it. Pain is fine. It's the resistance. So after all these years, there's several enemies I've named here, but I don't really know which one is the focal point anymore. And I've been doing the investigation for 12 years. But I know one thing is for certain. Other people aren't my enemy. I know that for sure. The words people say are not my enemy, and I don't need to change what they say. Ideas people believe in are not my enemy, and I don't need them to believe differently. Opinions people have are not my enemy, and I don't need to believe in, I don't need to have them have a different opinion. Because when my body's at ease, when I'm experiencing no resistance, that's called happiness. And I find glimmers of hope that I can maintain it. That's called freedom. When my heart's open and I'm capable of experiencing love and connection, that's what I'm after. So I got to do the work. And I got to be truthful about the fact when my heart is closed and when it is open. And I can't deal with you fakely when my heart is closed to you. When I'm experiencing anger or frustration with you or hatred towards you or any of that things, we got to talk first. I can't just fake it and smile and tell you everything's okay. Because I got to be truthful. Because that's what my soul depends upon. My freedom and my soul depends upon the truth, not how I look towards you. Now, I'll work on how I look towards you because it's very important for me to look good with you. It is. But first and foremost is I got to be truthful about my resistance. And I got to be able to handle my own pain. And sometimes I can't. And when I can't, I got to talk to you. Done? You ain't done it yet. How could you be done? You ain't started. Unless you got your eyes on the current enemy and it's me or your money or, well, then I know where you're at in the path, and that's fine too. You got a lot of work ahead of you. It's that moment you roll your eyes at somebody because you're annoyed and you don't even take responsibility for that. Because you're not annoyed, you're superior and scared, and they scare you. And because they scare you, you get real righteous about them because you're unsure about yourself, so you want to knock them down so you get sure about yourself. And that's the same thing with anger and the same thing with disturbance and the same thing with frustration. You're not frustrated. You're experiencing resistance and you want that to go away. And so you get real superior to it. I don't deny that I do it. I don't deny what the enemy is here. It's me. It's it. Done? Leave everything. Do the work. put in an effort in the right direction. That's kind of like me going to the gym, never getting on the equipment and then going, when am I done at this place? Jesus, how long are you going to keep me here? You're slowing my life down. Well, you ain't got on the equipment. And the equipment is simple. You experiencing you. And I know you ain't on the equipment if you're telling me about all the problems in the external world still. I know you ain't using the equipment if you're telling me the problem is out there. Because it ain't. And there ain't no way to get me to believe otherwise and no way to say it. And you can tell me how something out there is the problem all you want, and I won't buy it for 100 years. It's the resistance. You missed it. Somebody said something to you and your body tensed up and your heart rate elevated and you've been thinking about that person ever since. And you think it's them. You honestly still believe that they're the problem. Not true. You can't get any better that way. Imagine a world where they were the problem. How would you get out of that? Just hope that people change. Hope all the humans change. Hopefully you find that. Well, that's why we go about the business anyways, too, because we start getting annoyed and we start getting frustrated and we think the answer is I need to go live on my own. I need to be by myself on some private island where nobody bothers me. See, the answer is more connection, but you can't do that because everybody pisses you off. And you're still blaming them for pissing you off, so you can't get any better, so you can't connect with more people. So now you got to go further away and isolate. Because you got too many enemies. Recovery? What missile took down your life? You should be looking for that. And it ain't your mom. It ain't your childhood. It ain't your dad. It ain't your boss that fired you or your landlord that kicked you out. It's hardwired what you do in your mind when there is resistance in your body. And how you try to protect yourself, but you get too pissed and you get too frustrated and you get too screw it. Nobody cares. I'm going to get high. And see, that might not always been the enemy. That might not have been the reason you do drugs. It's the reason you do drugs now. It's the reason you can't stay sober now. Might not, you didn't feel that when you were 12 and you picked up the dope. You felt fine. You weren't getting high at 12 years old or 14 years old because of the resistance. Most likely, you might have been. But for the most part, you might have been bored. But then your mind learned how to handle pain. It learned where to turn to. It learned what to do when you got resistance. And there's kids here that today have been asked to confront the enemy, and I put it on them today. And it was brutal in this room today. And I guarantee afterwards they thought about getting high. Because they experienced enough resistance in this room where I know what their head said. Fuck them. What's the use? Now we're in the ball game dealing with your own resistance and your own heart rate. Good luck. Now we can talk about it. Now we can get real adult-like with what our common enemy is. Everyone on here. Sharing the same enemy. The problems will be problems and things are happening out there all the time. But it's how I go about it. It's how I conduct myself. And when my heart rate beats slow, I seem to conduct myself in a very good manner. I seem to be kind, and I seem to be loving, and I seem to be gentle, and I seem to be patient. But when my heart rate takes off, hatred comes right after, anger comes after, arrogance comes after, righteousness comes after. So I better be damned that I'll never forget, and they won't either. I can't make up for that no more. That little kid in the store that says, I hate you, Mom, that kid just has an elevated heart rate. He needs to know. Son, you just have an elevated heart rate right now. You don't really hate me. And see, he thinks the problem is his mother, but it ain't. The problem is the way he just conducted himself and the experience of hate. But see, we got 40-year-old infants that say, I hate you. We're breaking up because their heart rate got elevated. I'm moving. I might not let it go out because I'm going to kick it and say it's unfair. I'm not getting my way. I'll take some questions or comments.
In the chat, this is humble. My best rebuttals always come in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got a question over here.
Okay.
Hey, Art, Chris over here in the corner. So let's see, I've been listening to you for 7 years now, and I think tonight was probably the best summary of 7 years of teaching. So the whole resistance to what is leading to pain and fear, which results in anger, is just a nasty cycle. And if you recognize that you're just being resistant to what is and you cut it off there, it's a lot easier because you don't go through all that other crap. You don't alienate the people around you. It's something I'm still learning to do, but when it happens and I cut it off at that resistance and just accept it, oh, it's a lot easier. So,
That's the work, and that's doing the work. That's the work right there, is getting in there with that resistance and knowing what it is, and seeing the danger of what happens when I cross that line past the resistance and start conducting my life. And seeing every time I go past the resistance and start conducting my life from that resistance, I will experience remorse. And that really generally is the only times in my life that I experience remorse. Because I became whiny, I became righteous, and I became a victim. And I don't think that looks very good. And so challenging yourself to just feel your heart rate. Yes. To feel the tension in your muscles. Yeah. That's the work. And if it goes to the mind, it's too late. That means the mind has already took over control and is now there to protect you. And it's going to blame. And it's going to locate the enemy. And the thing in us that locates our enemy is the enemy. Every time you located the enemy, you are now under the guidance of the enemy. And that's 100%, not like a little, unless a man has a pistol. Unless there's real danger. Thank you, Chris. Yep, Guy.
More of a comment about what I've noticed about myself is this is called battlefield addiction. The battlefield for me is my head. I've been experiencing this at work lately, where I got a tough boss, real critical of even the way I take notes, and I want to be righteous. And my mind is constantly fighting this person in my head, and it won't stop. I got a very loud internal voice. So trying, and even talking to my coworkers, I'm having this issue. I can't get past this. This person is irritating me. But then even when I'm talking to them, my mind takes over when I'm talking to them about it and wants to blame that person. Why is he such an asshole? And because they all kind of think he's that way too. Why is he so obsessive? So it starts to blame. And it's a vicious cycle that's going on. And I know when that storm is brewing in my head, I know I'm in trouble. I know I'm losing it. Yeah. So and I'm constantly going, how do I get out of this? How do I release this out of my head?
I want to use this as an opportunity to tell you that I remember when I thought my mind was the problem, and I will tell you that there is 100% no way out of that but talking. Now, the problem is the mind isn't the problem. The problem is that the mind is the solution for our protection. So the problem is your heart rate. So the entirety of the problem is that when you're around your boss, your muscles tighten and your heart rate elevates. And that's because he scares you. And he doesn't scare you like he's going to hurt you. He scares you like reputational. He scares you like he makes you look bad. And because you look bad, your body and muscles tighten up and your heart rate elevates. And so the practice that I'm suggesting is that when you're with your boss, you just feel your heart rate. You just feel your muscles. And you don't resist the way you feel. You just sit there and you breathe and feel it. And you thank your boss for making you feel that way. Now, it will not get to the mind. It will not blame. It will stay right there in the body, and you will be 100% responsibility for that insecurity that your boss hits. It will then go away. It will be gone. You will be able to be around your boss, take in anything he says. Now, what happens is, if our boss says something to us and we miss it in the body, it goes to the mind. And the mind is going to try to find and locate itself. And the mind is unsure now. And the mind says, am I right or am I wrong? The mind is now going to need to talk to other people to figure out if it's being oppressed. So now you're going to have conversations, and it's going to be oscillating between it's my fault and my boss is oppressive. And your head is going to be sometimes thinking it's your fault and sometimes thinking he's a prick. And you're going to talk to people because you want to know if it's your fault or if he's a prick.
Right.
That's called venting. And what you're venting is the resistance out of your body. That's why it feels better when we talk, because the resistance leaves the body. You see? So the practice of getting better is to then be around your boss and focus solely on your body. Don't even listen to the words. They can come in, but just handle the body and secure yourself. Because his words are going to shake you like a missile hitting a building. And that's going to be a sense of insecurity and scaredness. And your heart rate's going to elevate. Once your heart rates elevate, you're going to have to talk to someone after. You're going to need to vent. The pain's going to be stuck in there. So you have to actually sit there. There's the words. He doesn't like the way, okay. And then my heart rate, boom, boom, boom. Slow it down, guys, slow it down. And there you go. Now you have what's called a practice. That's a way out. And that will work. That is 100% guarantee. And you will no longer have difficulty being around your boss because he no longer will have any missiles that can hit the building. You will be unshakable. You will not need to protect yourself. That protection from your boss is like a fake snake. We don't know the difference between a real snake and a fake snake. That's why we're all just
So I know meditation takes a lot of practice to learn. And what I'm hearing you is maybe I need to go practice that more so I can do it
no.
when I'm in a
No.
live conversation to get that to lower the heart rate. Well, that's a form of meditation.
That
though,
is a
isn't it?
form of meditation. That
Okay,
is
that's yeah.
But you don't need to do anything to do that. You don't need to meditate to go meditate. You just simply use that as a form of meditation. Total focus on the heart rate. You will now be the master of your heart rate. Your boss will no longer be able to elevate your heart rate. And that is badass. And that's called power. And you will be able to conduct yourself with clarity around your boss in which other people don't have the same level of clarity.
Yeah.
And you won't need to go out to the lunchroom or go out to lunch and talk about that man. You will thank him for the practice of being difficult.
But I'm just gonna say this.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, in the back of my head, I just want to kick his ass. You know, so, you know. So, but I'm saying that because I know everyone is having that issue out there in some form or another,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe me more than other people. And it's a lifelong journey, and sometimes I'm pretty good. But when I'm stressed and tired, that's when I really start sucking at this.
That's when we need more.
Yeah,
That's when our mind protects us more. The more tired we are, the more protection we get. If you ever notice, you'll complain later at night. You'll blame later at night.
Yeah.
And then you'll wake up in the morning and you'll be like, "What was I doing?"
Yep, I know. And a week from now, I'll be going like, "What was I thinking about? Yeah. What was that about?"
And it's not because your mind is tired; it's because your body's tired.
Yeah.
This is all in the body, folks. There's no question.
Yeah.
So once it's in the mind, all the mind does is babble. That's all it does. There's no way out of our mind. It's too late. In fact, the only way out of our mind is to express our thoughts. But we have to express our thoughts, and the reason we have to express our thoughts is because we have to figure out if we're being whiny or we're being oppressed. But we always think we're being oppressed. And then sometimes people lack courage, so they don't want to figure out if they're being whiny or being oppressed. So what they do is they say, "It's my fault. I just got to act better, and it's not me." Or they turn to violence and say, "I want to kick this person's ass," or whatever it is. But it all started with the heart rate. We need to find the enemy here.
We got another question over here.
Yep. Good
Okay.
talk.
Well, it's not a question. I'll just give you an example of my experience. I used to have really debilitating panic attacks, and I went to therapy for that for a while until it finally got broke down to you're having a physiological response because of what you're thinking, and it happens in an instant. And I really had to look at myself and my thoughts it was really my thought, my perception of a threat that was creating the physiological response in my body. So I don't think you instantaneously you are going to instantaneously have your heart rate go up when you get around your boss because there's this perceived threat. I mean, it's this conditioned thing now. You hate the guy, he's an asshole, you know he's going to be what he's going to be. And so it all happens really fast, really super fast. But if you can catch that, what I had to do for myself was let it go in my mind, that perception. and focus on something else. And maybe that's what Art's trying to say is focus on trying to lower your heart rate and ignore his fucking bullshit and just let it go. Let it go. Breathe.
I hate to be a stickler here, but when I know somebody's going to be difficult, when I know the conversation is going to be difficult, when I experience a difficult person, I start to become very, very aware of my heart rate. When I become aware of my heart rate, I don't approach that person because I'm already practicing. I'm going to this person and I'm solely focused on my heart rate and the calmness. So when I get there, I just gotta, I have always said it for years. I say focusing on my body is like driving in the snow. When you drive in the snow, it takes everything you got to stare at that road and hold that steering wheel. And you're exhausted after. And it's very intentional when you drive in the snow, not like driving around a small town, not like, driving around a barren town or a farm road. This is like driving in the snow. You got to pay attention. So I say that, if I don't pay attention, I will really quickly not be responsible. And as soon as I'm not responsible for my heart rate, then they are. And once they are, I blame. And it's too late. Once the mind starts blaming, truthfully, there won't be a way to let go. It'll be very hard. You'll be trying to talk yourself into letting go. But if someone brings up that person again, you're going to experience it again. It's going to piss you off. That's called a resentment. And it means to re-feel. So when we don't keep it in the body and it gets to the mind, we harbor a resentment. And we do that because every time we experience that person, we re-feel the elevated heart rate. You see? So in order for me to prevent resentment, I have to focus on my heart rate and not let it get to blame. But the minute that I lose responsibility for it, the minute I say they shouldn't do that, or why did he say that, or how come he's doing that, the minute I say that, I'm going to resent. And at that point, I have two options. I must speak to that person, or I must talk about them behind their back, or I stuff that resentment and get sick. And I stuff it because I'm too scared to talk behind their back and I'm too scared to talk to them. So now I stuff it down and then I start talking. My mind starts explaining why I'm stuffing it. You shouldn't go talk to him. He's real strong, or you might not be in the right. You don't want to approach it this way. And God, you don't want to talk behind his back. So don't do that. And you don't want to talk behind his back. So don't do that. And you can't be talking about him. He'll find out. Well, then also, God, maybe you're wrong here. Maybe you're not right. And there you are. And that gets us sick. You see? And then the next time we deal with them, we're not dealing with them from an empty space. We're dealing with them from that last resentment. And we're already always looking for them to act in a manner that's going to make us resent them again. So now all of a sudden, we're not looking at our heart rate. We're going, wait till he does it again this time. He's going to be an asshole again because this guy's an asshole. Maybe he's not an asshole. Maybe you're insecure. Maybe he's saying perfectly logical things. You're just not seeing his position. So in order to actually get better, not get sick, but go, okay, I got to hold it down here with my body tightening and my muscles, man, because his missiles, they hit like missiles and they insecure me. And when I get insecure, if I don't see that it's just insecure, then I get it as a resentment. And if some kids are here in my program and they say things to me, they used to, they would cause an insecurity, and then I'd blame them and I'd resent the people I was trying to help. That would be real easy. And then every time I'm dealing with them from a resentment. And now I don't want to change. I don't want them to change for good, for themselves. I want them to change because I don't like them. Now, how powerful am I going to be? You annoy me. That's why I want you to change. You disturb me. That's why I want you to change. Nobody will change for you if they annoy you. You don't have the power. They will annoy you. Not possible to affect change on the matter of that relationship once you're annoyed. Because you're superior and you're right and you're a victim to them because they annoy you. When I found out that anger, that yes, there's fear and insecurity and it causes anger in me, but anger is just the most extreme level of righteousness that we can have. When I found out that I couldn't be angry without being a victim, that I had to be a victim to somebody to be angry, and worse than that, I had to be righteous to be angry. So I had to be two things. I had to be a victim and I had to be right. And I went, ooh, I just don't want to be that shit no more. So now I got to deal with my heart rate because that's the most extreme. When my heart rate goes really bad, that's when I get angry. Now I better watch, because if it really gets elevated, I'm going to get angry. And if you elevate it enough, I will hate you. And that might be because you just don't believe that transgender people are people. Something so silly like that. And all of a sudden I'm hating somebody because they're a Muslim. Because they elevated my heart rate. All right, we got another question right there.
Hey, Art. I love
Hi.
your message tonight. It's so practical, and I love that you're talking about really being mindful and connected to the body and paying attention to the heart rate. I have done a little study. Have you heard of the Heart Math Institute?
No.
Look them up. They have all the science for what you're describing. If anybody is interested in that, and what you're talking about is heart rate variability, right? It's how your heart goes up and down, right, in response to stress. And they have really practical tools. I heard somebody talking earlier about, like, well, how do you do this? They have a lot of different, like, breath practices that focus on the heart. They call it heart rate breathing. That helps you if anybody's looking for a tool that they want to practice kind of what you're describing. They have lots of great options there. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
Who's next? I want you to know the thing that's arguing right now about just simply turning your life into a heart rate experiment. The thing that's arguing is the enemy. So the voice in your head that's telling you what I'm saying is nonsense is the enemy that you're looking for. So if you take a look and see that maybe there's some justification why what I'm saying just doesn't have to be practiced, or why you shouldn't go to work tomorrow and just look at your heart rate, or why you shouldn't be around difficult people and look at your heart rate, that's your righteousness. And it's probably still saying that people suck and people are mean and people are assholes. And that's irrelevant. More than irrelevant, it might even be true, but still, we still haven't located the problem. People are assholes. That's not the problem. You see? It's your resistance to them being assholes that's the problem. It's your elevated heart rate. That's the problem. Because if you didn't have an elevated heart rate, they wouldn't even be an asshole. If someone can't elevate your heart rate, they can't be an asshole. Be tough. You see? You call them an asshole because you were around them and they made you feel insecure in your body. And that elevated your heart rate to protect you. And then you blame them. They might be a nice guy. A lot of people think I'm an asshole. They'll go to Ange and go, oh man, I play poker with Art. He's an asshole. They do. They find out what I do and they go, no way. No way. Because see, at the poker table, I might elevate their heart rate. And they might elevate mine, and we might go back and forth because we're playing for money and we're scared. So we might not conduct ourselves very nice because we're all operating under elevated heart rates. And at a poker table, everyone's heart rate's always getting elevated. Actually, sometimes they put monitors on people's heart rates to show. So people's heart rates are getting elevated and the worst comes out. But not on the TV. You see, they all try to not let it out. They're liars. You should see those guys when they're not on TV. So you wonder how they can lose $1 million pot and then just smile and say, nice hand. They're lying. They're waiting for the camera to shut off and then they ram their head against the wall and punch the wall. Yeah. They call the guy a prick. They say he's an asshole. What's he doing in the pot? Whatever. Poker gives me a great opportunity to sit at the table and focus on my heart rate. It's amazing. Very odd that all this stuff boils down to the heart. And we're sitting here talking about love every week. Can't love with an elevated heart rate, by the way. You can only hate. You know, when you're in love and you're experiencing love, your heart rate is low.
That whole thing makes your heart race.
Makes your heart race because they're getting you high. You just met them. You get butterflies and flutters because she might sleep with you tonight. Sometimes our heart rate does get good and excited, and sometimes it's good, right? Sometimes it's good when we're not protecting ourselves and our heart rate gets happy for joy. That's good. But we're not protecting ourselves. We're like, wow. That's called excitement. That's good. Somebody just won a jackpot at the casino. Their heart's open. That's not the time. The enemy's not there then. Ooh, who's next?
Oh, Carrie Burrows, did you have your hand up?
You gotta open the screen and put them all up there.
There's no much up and down.
Let's get her unmuted.
This one unmuted.
Yeah, you just gotta click request to unmute.
She's unmuted.
Yeah. I just want to say that this was like, after the last 3 weeks, this was like the bow on, and then the Untethered Soul.
Mm-hmm.
This was a really good capsule of the last 3 weeks and my, questions and thoughts, and this, I'm not going to, and Chris said it, it's probably of the 7 years or the 2 or 2.5 years that we've been with you, but I there's a lot of smiles tonight as I was listening. So good job.
Thank you, Carrie.
And let me just point out to everybody too, on our YouTube channel, all the recordings are on there. So if you missed one of the last few weeks that she's referring to and you want to catch up, you just go to our YouTube channel and you'll see the playlist on there. And if you're not very tech savvy, you can just reach out to me and I'll send the link to you directly. But we actually have 7 years of videos, a library of our solution groups. But yeah, you can go back and review.
Battlefield.
Yeah, Battlefield Addiction YouTube.
The worst times are when I think for sure that I've got the enemy in mind. Then I know I'm in trouble. Then I know the enemy has taken me over. And I'm protecting myself with righteousness and resentment and feeling oppressed and feeling like somebody's not treating me right and feeling victimized. And I sulk. No power there. But we somehow get, the mind convinces us and the self convinces us that if we deem that other person bad, and if we get enough people to believe it, that somehow that's going to fix it. If we can prove to the world how wrong they are, and somebody will listen, we feel better. We just need the world to know how much we've been wronged. We need the world to know how much we've been treated unjustly. And poor us. Poor us. We don't look at all the things that people have done for us or what we've done to others. In those times, we just look simply at this one way that we've been treated. And we get stuck. And once it goes to the mind, and once you're stuck, I'm begging you, there is no way out. Don't leave it there. You got to talk. And you got to talk to the person. There's no other pure way out. Don't talk yourself out of talking to the person. You won't be able to. You have to talk. Your soul depends upon it. But that's when we become liars. Because we put on a front and we act nice to the person, or we try to be cordial. But what's right underneath? All those thoughts of what they've done to us. And how do we not address that? It's like being in a room with somebody that owes us money and we don't talk about it. How are you going to do that? And it's such a relief when the person goes, I owe you money, don't I? And you're like, yeah, idiot, you know you do. So it's nice when they go, I hurt your feelings, didn't I? But that's rare. They're not going to do that. They probably feel you hurt their feelings. They probably feel the exact same way. I think it's a business here, a business of let's get down to kind of business of, yeah, do you understand what it feels like when words hit you like a missile? Do you understand when looks hit you like a missile? Do you understand how shaken your body is? Do you feel your hand shake when you're angry? Watch out, because the enemy is about to take over control of the system. And once that enemy takes over control of the system, it needs to blame someone else, and it needs to locate the target so it can neutralize it. So there it goes, trying to neutralize the target. What's the target? My boss said I don't take great notes. Oh, what a threat. Oh my God, Guy, I read that in the paper, Guy. I was reading the other day, Seattle Times front page was like, Guy doesn't take good notes. Headline news, Guy Pennington takes terrible notes down at Boeing. Whoa. But that's our fear. You see? He's going to tell everyone we're incompetent. He's going to tell everyone we suck. That's what's got me all shook up inside. Really? I'm worried about my reputation. And because I worry about my reputation, that shakes me when people say things about my reputation. When people say things that I don't want to look like, and they tell me, You know, I tell people all the time that their whole life's about looking good. And boy, that shakes them. Boy, that shakes them up, hits their insecurities. Why? Oh, you don't want to be known as a person that is out there trying to look good. God forbid. I say, my life's all about looking good. I'm here on this planet to try to look the best I can for other human beings. And because I determined that my life's all about looking good and I want to look good for people, I get to decide how I want to look good. I want to look good by being a person that has an open heart and not an elevated heart rate. I want to look good because I want to be calm around people and I don't want to act like a buffoon and be an infant and yell at people. And I feel deep remorse when I become an infant and yell at people, and that's happened recently. Because I don't look very good when I act like an infant. But I'll be the first to admit, my number one concern as a human being is how I am with the other humans and what they'll remember me for. I have no problem with saying that. That's the basis of my life. I like to impress humans. I like to impress my sisters, the people I love, all of you. I like to do that. Hopefully at my funeral, there'll be a lot of people because they were impressed. I don't want to be at my funeral and have one person comes up because I didn't care what people thought about me. You don't care what people think about you, then why do you want them at your funeral? We care deeply as human beings what people think about us. That's okay. And guess what? Other people's opinion of me is my business. I love it when people have a high opinion of me. Makes me feel real good. I hate it when people have a negative opinion of me. It makes me feel real bad. I don't get crazy with it, but that's just true. If you are a good chef, wouldn't you care what people think of your food? If you were a good musician, would you like to watch their art? Would like people to like your music? If you're a good comedy, you want them to laugh at your jokes? If you work hard at Boeing, don't you want people to know it? If you're a kind person, don't you want people to know you as a kind person? I think so. Okay. Well, I guess we don't have any more questions. We got some group to get back to here. And maybe we get some people confronting the enemy down here. A lot of times they find that I'm the enemy here, and I know that they've been taken over by the enemy when they think I'm the enemy. I know they're in trouble. I know they're in trouble. Because, man, I ain't the enemy. You just think I am because your system has been taken over by a protective system called it. And it now is telling you that I'm the enemy because your body didn't feel good earlier today. And your heart rate was elevated. I'm sorry I elevated your heart rate. You better look and see why. You better also look at the fact that you can't elevate my heart rate. That makes me responsible, and it doesn't make someone else. It makes someone else irresponsible. Okay, I think it's time. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.